All right, another Republican debate in the books, and of course, the biggest theme, jobs and the economy. So how did the candidates do when they were asked about the economy? Here with us with their grades and to give their grades is our economic panel. Peter Marici is an economist on the University, works at the University of Maryland, and you see him a lot of commercials, and former chief economist for the U.S. International Trade Commission. Kendra Todd is here. She's a housing and finance expert, and Watchdog on Wall Street radio talk show host Chris Markowski. Welcome to all three of you. I guess, first off, let's look at Romney. You seem to think that he did well, Peter.
Absolutely. He understands what the problems are. He's got a comprehensive plan to address them. He stacks up well against Obama.
Here is a little Mitt Romney on the economy last night.
I'd be prepared to be a leader. You can't get the country to go in the right direction and get Washington to work if you don't have a president that's a leader. And 3 years ago, we selected a person who'd never had any leadership experience, never worked in the private sector, never had the opportunity to actually bring people together, and he hasn't been able to do so.
And one of the questions was poised at him, thrown at him, was from John Huntsman. John Huntsman said, at Bain Capital, you cut up businesses and fired people. He said, no, for Sports Authority and Staples, you may have heard of that.
It's one of those ones where you're going to ask a question, you better know the answer to it first, I guess.
Right. And so Mitt Romney also was able to handle the Obamacare question. Now, let's see what the grade you gave Mitt Romney.
Here you go.
A minus, and Kendra, why B plus?
Well, I think he's the front runner for this cycle, but I'm not completely overwhelmed with any of them, really. But I think that if you're going to pick a candidate right now, he seems to be the most well-rounded, and I think that he could probably beat Obama.
I think he played a bit of a prevent defense yesterday, too, to some degree.
What was interesting, too, he said, I'm not worried about the rich. Lower class, their social programs. I'm worried about the middle class. Tactically, that's a good move.
Absolutely, and he's talking about empowering people to create jobs, not by helping them with, say, more tax cuts. Although that's part of his program, it's more about creating opportunities, which is a good thing.
Here is Herman Cain. He was all over this debate, attacked and was talking. Here's a sample.
So the answer is we must grow this economy with a bold solution, which is why I have proposed 999, and at the same time get serious about not creating annual deficits so we can bring down the national debt. That would reestablish confidence in our system, and I believe we could get our credit rating back.
Talked a lot about the Fed, too, and what he would do and what his background was. Chris, where'd you grade him?
I gave him an A+. Simply reason I gave him an A+ because I thought everyone was going after him. He was a guy, everyone was targeting him, and I think he came back with a great response. And better yet, you know what? He didn't have any canned lines.
Kendra.
I give him a B. I don't think anybody wants me as a teacher.
Well, you're a tough grader.
Well, I mean, I like the 999 plan. It's simple. I think it's digestible. It's something the American people can understand. But you know, I didn't hear anything from him about job creation, about, you know, what he would do for deregulating banks. He didn't really address trade. I mean, I wanted to hear more from him about tax reform.
Yeah, I gave him a B+. He said less than Romney about things like trade, regulatory reform, and so forth. So many of the problems that we have are the federal government reaching down into the state governments, giving them cash, but messing them up when they do it. He didn't show a grasp of those kinds of problems. New kid in the class, has room for improvement, real potential, look presidential.
And we were going to go over Rick Perry's plan, but there is none. So we'll have to wait for the next time.
Just
he has a
major
major speech on Friday. Listen, panel, stick around because we have a few questions for you. President Obama wants the rich to pay their fair share. The question for the panel is this fueling the madness on Wall Street? Plus, you better check out your TV. It might start melting. And no, it's not because Fox and Friends is too hot, but Gretchen is really too hot. Blame her. All right, we're back with our prestigious panel. With the president encouraging tax the rich and class warfare mentality, is he actually encouraging the Occupy Wall Street protests around this country? Peter Marici still here, and Kendra's here, and Mr. Markowski's here. All right, do you think that he's hurting?
Instigating, I think, is what he's doing. I think he's a little wink, wink, nod, nod, you know, guys go have a good time, you know, kind of trying to drive this to some degree without actually coming out and saying it and, you know, getting really into it.
I think that the larger liberal political machine that he's a part of is definitely planting the seeds, and now that it's garnered some, you know, attention, they're trying to figure out what agenda to attach to it.
Peter, it's amazing how much rhetoric it comes out of those interviews of the protesters and squatters that are exactly like the president's speeches.
Absolutely. These are the folks that believed in the president. And for 2 years, he got everything he wanted. It didn't solve their problems. Now he's tongue-lashing the wealthy. Again, class warfare. So basically, these folks are disappointed, and he's picking the villains he is telling them to pick.
In a way, do you fight back about this, explaining how society works? That the most successful hire people to get jobs to earn a living, and you have an opportunity in this country, not a guarantee of success?
One of the first things when I saw this happen, some of the complaints that they have are right. I agree with some of the things in regards to crony capitalism, government's too big, handouts for this one, that one, some corporate cronyism nonsense. I wish the Tea Party went down there and did a little educating, is what I wish really went on, and actually got down there and started engaging some of these kids on their level. I mean, it's almost like a default setting in their minds is like, blame this one, blame this group, blame the rich. It's nonsense.
And I think the key that you said is most of them are kids. They're really, really young. Most of them are not really educated on really what's going on. And I think that there's some legitimate anger and frustration out there. It's just completely misguided and misdirected.
Well, I saw John Paulson, one of the people that they were going to march in his homes yesterday because he did this thing called Become Successful. So they were marching on millionaires' homes yesterday in New York City. He made a statement. He said the top 1% of New Yorkers pay over 40% of all income taxes. The top 10% pay 70% of all income taxes. Do they realize the social programs that the rich are propping up, Peter?
Oh, they don't realize it because they choose not to focus on it. But I'll tell you what this is going to do. It reminds me of the demonstrations at the end of the Johnson administration that caused Humphrey the election. This is going to create a lot of Reagan Democrats. This is going to turn a lot of working class and middle class Democrats into Republican voters in the fall. This is playing into Governor Romney's hand if he's the nominee.
It's still a wild card, so much to be determined, but that's a solid prediction. Peter Marici, Kendra Todd, Chris Markowski, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, 26 minutes now after the hour. President Obama gave the American people his jobs bill, and just last night,